It was a cold, rainy Thursday in a sleepy part of town at Rosewood Diner. The neon lights flickered and only a handful of customers sat in booths. Inside, a young waitress named Lena wiped down tables, her apron slightly damp, her eyes tired but kind. She worked double shifts to afford nursing school. Tips were bad, but her heart never was. She noticed a soaked man in a hoodie enter quietly, shaking off the rain. No one recognized him, just another customer. He sat alone in the back booth, silent, unassuming. Lena offered him a smile. "Coffee?" She asked kindly. The man nodded. "Please." She didn't know this stranger was Keanu Reeves, dressed down, observing the world unnoticed. Lena noticed the man didn't order food, just coffee, and even that he sipped slowly. His clothes were damp, his eyes tired but kind. She'd seen that look before in people hiding pain without asking. She brought him a hot bowl of soup on the house, she said. The manager Rick spotted her and frowned. "We don't give freebies," he barked from the counter. "It's raining," she whispered. "He looks hungry." Rick rolled his eyes. This is a business, not a charity. But Lena ignored the tension. She set the soup in front of the man and gave him a napkin. He looked up, touched. "Thank you," he said softly. She smiled. Everyone deserves warmth on a cold day. Keanu didn't just eat. He watched how Lena served an elderly couple with patience, how she helped a child who spilled his drink, how she smiled, even when she was exhausted. He took mental notes. This wasn't about soup anymore. He was there for a reason. You see, Keanu secretly owned the diner. It was one of a dozen businesses he supported under an alias, places where he'd occasionally visit incognito, just to see how things really ran. And tonight, in the quiet rain, he was witnessing something powerful. One woman's kindness tested in the trenches, but he also saw the rot, a bitter manager, rude Simon's, no respect, and through it all, Lena kept serving, kept caring. Hours passed. Most guests had left. The diner was almost empty. Lena refilled Keanu's cup once more, gently smiling. But Rick had had enough. He stormed over. "I told you, no handouts. That soup's coming out of your paycheck." Lena, shocked, tried to reason. It was just one bowl. Rick snapped. "You're done. Get out." Silence fell. Even Keanu looked stunned. Lena's lips trembled. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not now. She turned to Rick. "And all I did was be decent." Rick didn't blink. "And I run a business. Clean out your locker." Lena nodded slowly, dignity intact. She handed Keanu the coffee. "Last refills free," she whispered. Lena disappeared into the back, heartbroken. Keanu stood slowly, pulled down his hood, and walked to the front. Rick rolled his eyes. "You too. We're closing." But then everything changed. Keanu looked him straight in the eye and said, "4 simple words. I own this place." Rick blinked. "Excuse me." Keanu pulled out his wallet and laid a business card on the counter. "KJ Oraldings, the name on the deed." "You fired the kindest person I've met all year," he said, effective immediately. "You're fired." Rick stammered, his face pale. "You can." "I just did," Keanu said calmly. Then he walked toward the back to find Lena in the small back room of the diner. Lena sat on a bench near the employee lockers, trying to collect herself. Tears welled up, but she blinked them away. She didn't cry often, and certainly not for someone like Rick. She muttered, "Desk kindness doesn't pay the rent." Just then, the door creaked open. She looked up and froze. It was the man from the booth. No hoodie now, no mystery, just Keanu Reeves. Standing there, real as the rain outside. "I'm sorry you were treated that way," he said gently. Lena wiped her eyes, confused. "Wait, why are you back here?" Keanu smiled. "Because I own this diner and I just fired the wrong person, then fixed it." Lena stared, stunned. "You're joking." "Nope," he said, chuckling, "and I want to offer you your job back, but with a twist." Back out in the main room, Lena sat across from Keanu in the same booth. She'd served him in just hours ago. "You showed more compassion tonight than most CEOs I've met," he said. "This place needs someone like you." Lena blinked. "Wait, are you saying?" Keanu nodded. "I want you to be the new manager." She laughed nervously. "I don't have experience, you have empathy. You lead with heart, I'll take care of the rest." For the first time in weeks, Lena felt something rare. Hope. He slid a contract toward her, neatly folded. "And there's one more thing. I'm also covering the rest of your nursing school tuition." Her hands flew to her mouth. "Why would you?" "Because you helped someone when no one else did," he said. "You don't need a reason to be kind, and neither do I." The next morning, the Rosewood Diner looked different, not on the outside. Still the same flashing neon and checkered floors, but the energy had shifted. Lena walked in, now dressed in a crisp new uniform with a subtle manager's badge. The other employees watched in awe. Keanu was already there, sipping coffee at his favorite booth like nothing had happened. "Morning, boss," she said, grinning. "Morning, manager," he grinned back. She walked the floor with confidence. Her kindness wasn't seen as weakness now, it was power. A homeless man wandered in later, unsure. Rick would have thrown him out. Instead, Lena smiled. Coffee or soup? The man blinked. Both. On the house, she said, and just like that, a new chapter began. Word of what happened at the diner spread like wildfire. Not just because of Keanu, but because of Lena's story. Local news picked it up. Waitress fired for kindness now runs the place. The headlines read, customers returned, this time in droves. The place buzzed with laughter, conversation and second chances. People tipped better. Employees worked with more pride. Lena, she stayed the same kind soul, just with more power to help. A woman brought in her toddler. Are you the lady from the news? Lena smiled and knelt beside the child. I might be Keanu visited weekly. Sometimes he brought flowers. Other times he just sat in the booth and quietly watched the world he helped repair. Weeks later, Lena's coworkers threw her a surprise party at closing time. Balloons, cake, laughter. It was everything she never imagined she'd deserve. Keanu came by too, bringing a simple card. Inside it read to Lena, the heart of this diner, you made it warm again. As the night quieted, she stepped outside with him, under the same neon light where it all began. Still not used to this, she said, looking at the stars. Keanu smiled. You earned every bit of it. She turned to him. And you could have stayed silent. Why didn't you? He paused. Because kindness is only powerful when we protect it. And in that moment, the rain finally stopped. A month passed, and Lena had settled into her new role as manager at Rosewood Diner. Every day brought new challenges, but with every challenge, she became more confident in her abilities. The customers, the employees, they all started looking up to her, and she looked up to herself a little more too. One evening, as she was locking up, her phone rang. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. Curious, she answered. Hello, Lena? It's Prince William. Her heart nearly stopped. Pardon, is this a joke? No joke, Prince William said, chuckling. I heard about your story, and I wanted to personally congratulate you for your kindness and bravery. I've seen firsthand how a small act of kindness can change a life. I'd love to meet you sometime. Lena didn't even know how to respond. The future King of England wanted to meet her. She hadn't expected such recognition. But in that moment, she realized that kindness had a way of reaching places she never could have imagined. Weeks later, an invitation arrived at the diner's front door, hand-delivered, sealed with wax. It was from Prince William's office. Lena stared at it for a long moment before opening it. The letter inside was formal, but the words were kind. It would be an honor to host you at Buckingham Palace. We'd like to thank you for showing the world the power of kindness. It felt surreal. Buckingham Palace, a place of royal history. A waitress from a small diner invited to dine with royalty. Lena's hands shook as she read. She quickly called Keanu. You won't believe this. Keanu's calm voice answered. I knew you'd get noticed. You've always had that special something. For a second, she was speechless. She'd always dreamed of being noticed, but never like this. The day arrived. Lena put on her best dress, unsure how to handle the whirlwind of emotions. She could hardly believe it. She wasn't just meeting royalty. She was meeting the very symbol of compassion and leadership. She arrived at Buckingham Palace, the grand gates opening to welcome her in. The guards, the flowers, the sheer magnitude of it all. Lena could hardly take it in when she met Prince William. He was exactly as she'd imagined. Calm, approachable, kind. Spoke about kindness, about the ripple effects that small gestures can have on the world. Lena, I admire the way you've led, he said, not through power, but through humility. Lena smiled. Thank you, Your Highness. I just try to be kind. This, Prince William said, is the key to changing the world. And for the first time in her life, Lena understood that all those little moments, the soup shed given to Keanu, the smile she'd shared with a stranger, had truly changed everything. After the royal meeting, Lena returned to Rosewood Diner, but something was different. The diner wasn't just a job, it had become part of her journey. She walked in to find her team celebrating with balloons and cake. Keanu had quietly slipped in earlier, as he often did, to witness the impact of the kindness ripple further. You're a part of something much bigger now, Lena, he said. But remember this, place is home, it's where it all started. Lena smiled. And it'll never change, will it? No, Keanu said softly, not as long as you're here. She looked around at the employees, the regulars, the faces that had become so familiar. This wasn't just a diner, this was a place where lives intersected, where kindness was the currency, and where everyone had the chance to feel valued. The journey had brought her from the shadows of rejection to the spotlight of success, but it was the kindness that remained the constant. It had taken her places she never imagined, with people she never thought she'd meet. But in the end, it was all just a reflection of who she'd always been, a woman with a big heart, ready to make a difference. Months later, the Rosewood Diner had become more than just a place to eat. It was a community. It wasn't the fancy dishes or the neon lights that brought people back. It was the warmth, the kindness, the feeling that everyone belonged. Lena stood by the front door one evening, watching the crowd slowly trickle out as the diner's closing time approached. She thought back on everything that had changed, everything that had happened because of one small act of kindness. Keanu had returned a few days ago, but this time he wasn't just a quiet observer, he was a friend. And as she locked the door, she realized something. Kindness wasn't about receiving recognition or rewards. It was about knowing you've made the world a little better than you found it. She turned to Keanu as he stood by the booth, a familiar smile on his face. "You did good, Lena," he said. Lena smiled back. "We did," and together they watched as the diner's lights dimmed, knowing that the legacy of kindness would live on, long after the last customer had left.